Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the WYL Take Ownership podcast, where it's all about taking ownership of your mental, your economics, and your communities. Today, we have Liris Crosse, who's joining us today, and a good friend of mine. I'm gonna quickly say, actually, you know what? Let's go around and introduce ourselves, and then I'm gonna say your intro. Let you roll in.
Well, it's your favorite host over here, Kelly Green. No offense, Ofo.
And apparently the secondary host, Ofo Izugu.
And we're really excited to have you here, Liris.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Liris is a pioneer in the modeling industry, motivational speaker, actress, builder of communities, and the first plus model to win the model portion of Project Runway. So,
yes, she's a boss.
Congrats on that.
Very exciting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so can we start with that? Like, I'm really curious because I like these modeling shows. Definitely love watching them with like my cousins and stuff, and all these competition shows. So I'm really curious to know like how was that experience? Like, how did you get there? Like, what happened?
Well, I truly had the time of my life being on Project Runway. It was the very first season for quite a few things. It was the first season that they gave models a voice, because usually just the models walk down the runway in whatever the designers put on them, and you never got to know how they felt in it, what they thought about it. So I'm very thankful to be a part of the first season for that. Because models are people. We're
Absolutely.
not just inanimate objects that some people think we are. And this was also the first season where they had models of all sizes. To be a woman who's a size 14, 16 and, walking the runway every week on Project Runway, it was a big deal, not only for me, but for women across the world who have been watching the show and have really connected with what we were trying to accomplish to show that, I'm every woman and we want to look good too, and we want to feel good when we put on clothes as well. And we are the average woman. So, don't forget about us when you're designing clothes, But, we want to just, I guess, get people to understand that clothing can look beautiful on so many different sizes. And I think this season of Project Runway definitely proved that at the time of my life again. And it was just great to be a part of something that I felt was revolutionary. You know how we always say the revolution will be televised? It was truly televised. And now I'm starting to see more designers who are taking a chance and starting to learn about how to design for the plus size body, including plus models in their shows and editorials. And that's the change that we want to see.
Right.
That's the change that we want to see.
No,
but
good.
A lot of people do ask me, was it as crazy as it looks on TV? Yes. You never know what you're walking into every day. Like literally, I wouldn't know the challenge or anything. It was just like 5 minutes before I go into the room. They're like, this is your designer. And I'm like, okay. Then you walk into the room and the designer's like, we have to make something out of car parts. Oh, okay, great. So
I always thought it was like you had a little bit of time in between, like meeting them, and they edited it so that it looked like it was immediately after. But no, they set y'all up.
No.
Do it immediately.
Well, this is the thing. Project Runway is really big about their integrity, and it's not just a produced piece.
Right.
Like, it really is a contest at the same time for them. So they don't want a model to know, because what if this model tells somebody else that's that's one of the designers and they get an edge? They pretty much stick to the rules. So when they say cut, we told you only have 5 minutes to do touch-ups, they mean it. It's like, hey, I need you to step away from Liris right now. No more touch-ups. Wow. Yeah, they're serious about it.
That's extreme.
So
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
mad extreme. But so it's cool because it highlights the flexibility you have, right, in terms of your career, in terms of just how you move through stuff. Flexibility in that this is like, so people don't know this at home. We had to work really hard to get this booked, because I know we were messing around with schedules a bit.
Yes.
And Liris was super flexible, so we want to thank you for that.
No problem.
So definitely thank you for that. But thinking about that concept of flexibility, you've gone from, and sometimes you've done these things simultaneously, but you've gone from video model to actress to runway killer to entrepreneur. You know, how have you been able to seamlessly transition? And what's also the biggest thing you've learned throughout that process?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. Well, to keep it real, when you have bills to pay, you get pretty flexible. You're like, okay, I love modeling, but right now modeling isn't bringing in this. So what other thing can I do? We are in a day and age when people we're not just putting ourselves in a box. It's like, if I'm talented at this and I'm talented at that, I'm going to do this and that. I don't just have to do this because I went to school for this or because everyone says I'm good at this. And my dad was a person who has always believed you need to have multiple streams of income. So for me, I love modeling. Modeling is my core. That's my base. But I do public speaking. I do model boot camps. I'm looking into maybe starting my own online boutique. I'm writing my first book. Actually, my book is out now. And
hit him with the plug real quick.
Yeah, it's called Make the World Your Runway. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. I started a podcast, Liris Lounge podcast. So there's just so many things because I feel like I'm a Renaissance woman. I can speak, I can write, I like to create art, I like to produce projects. There's so many things that I want to do. So, I feel like God put me here for a purpose. And I would be remiss if I didn't really actively fulfill my purpose here on the earth. I'm trying to remember the quote. It was like the place that has the most value or the most is like the graveyard. I'm trying to remember the quote. And it's because people didn't really tap into their purpose or their dreams or the things that they were really destined and brought here to do. And when I die, I want to leave here empty, literally empty. Like people say, no, Liris lived her life. She made her impact. She did this, she did that.
Right.
That's why I travel. I have fun. I spend time with my family. I work hard. I play hard. All of that is really important. What was the second part of your question?
Oh, no. Like, what
was the thing I learned?
I mean, you're kind of touching on it, but
I've learned a lot of things. I would say one of the things is take vacations.
I love vacations.
I take them.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's partly like a work thing, because for work, for me, for modeling, a lot of times I travel for stuff. But I'll try to see if I can stay like an extra few days and I'll go sightseeing. I'll visit this museum. I'll go to this beach that I heard about, all of that stuff. That's really important. There's no, like I think a lot of us, our parents waited to, I'm going to wait till I retire and they save up all this money. Yeah, but you got people who are dropping dead in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Right. 60s, you don't need to wait to that time. You need to fully live life.
Or they save money and then other things come up that the money
they
is
get
spent
sick
on,
and it's like, now you saved all this money, but now you're sick and you can't travel. You can't do this. You can't go do that. Yeah. So that's like one of the things I told my mom. I was like, look, I ain't trying to die no time soon. But already I feel as though I've lived such a full life and an amazing life. And I've really tried to take vacations and take moments. And not only just vacation to experience certain things, but especially when you're an entrepreneur, you need to be able to reset. Right. You need to be able to restore yourself. We talk about we're like cups. So you serve from your overflow. Right. You serve other people from your overflow. But we're humans, so guess what? Sometimes we make mistakes and we're serving from the almost empty cup of ourselves. But when you feel as though your energy is off, your spirit is off, your mind is starting to go against you, take some time and vacation and reboot, realign yourself, have a conversation with God, get it and I'm telling you, even if it's just like a quick weekend trip.
Right.
Earlier this year, I think it was in March, I went to Miami for like 2-3 days. And I was just like, I need a reboot. I was like, I was getting in my head. I was getting annoyed and angry about certain stuff in my industry. Right. And I was just like, I don't want to feel like this. And just those 2-3 days away was like the great reset. And things have just been on this amazing path. But that also happens with starting to know who you are, knowing who you are inside, knowing your triggers, knowing what makes you feel good, what doesn't, when you need help, when you need a good conversation, when you need a good hug, when you need a good meal, knowing what you need for yourself and loving on yourself and knowing that you are worth this moment away, turning your phone off for a second or stepping away. Yeah.
Right. I love that. And it's cool you're saying that because O and I have frequent conversations about what you're talking about, which is basically like self-awareness. Just like knowing yourself enough to know what you need when you need it.
Yes.
Not ignoring the signs, not like just, pushing past. It's like, okay, let me assess like what's happening here because I'm feeling either overwhelmed or frustrated or sad or just confused. And let me, figure how that happens. I'm curious to know like, what your journey looked like to get there. Has it always been something that's been ingrained with you, like maybe from childhood, or is it something you had to learn where it's like, I need to make sure I know myself and my worth and my needs and then act on it?
Well, I would say my parents, with the vacation thing, my parents did take vacations. We did explore and see the world, so I'm glad that they set that part in. But I don't know, I think there was something that was kind of innately in me that I learned to take time for myself. But I also know, I did go through some periods where I just was tired. I was emotionally drained and I was tired. And when you kind of hit that rock bottom place or that really tired place, that's when all you have is yourself. You're home, you're in your room, and you're like, what am I going through? Why am I emotionally here? Why am I financially here? Why? And that's when you have to do a self-evaluation, especially if you want to pull yourself out of it.
Right.
And I think it's those times which really taught me who I was, what I wanted, how resilient I am, how emotional or even sometimes closed off I could be in certain areas of my life. And I'm also thankful I have different mentors around me. My big sister, she's a life coach. So, sometimes I can bounce stuff off of her or like my best friend, Christy. I also have some awesome guy friends in my life who, that as a woman, sometimes it's just great to have a guy, speak into your life or say, Liris, you got this, all that other stuff. But I think sometimes, a lot of times we learn so much about ourselves when we're going through the valley of the shadow of death. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's the dark side.
Right. Yeah, so a lot of times we want to fast forward through it. But some years ago, I started to learn, what can I learn from this? Right. Even like, if it's dating, what this relationship didn't work. What was I supposed to learn from this? A business relationship. This didn't work. What can I learn from this? Roommate situation. Okay, we had an issue about this. What can I learn from this? If you remain a sponge and like an open book, there's so much you can learn about yourself and the world and the people in it. Because we learn from each other. Whether we go through that situation or how we experience that person, we learn so much about the world and ourselves.
So true.
It's interesting because every time you talk about a certain thing, there's kind of a thread that keeps being developed, right? Like there's a spirituality thread, the thread of persistence. There's a thread of constantly learning. So I don't know, hopefully you don't mind me sharing this, but I remember you and I talking last year and you were talking about how just the year before that I think it's 2016. You was going through a tough time, thinking like thoroughly, do you want to continue in this industry or not?
Yeah.
And I said, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, and I'm sharing it in the mic. Like,
no, it's fine.
I didn't give you a choice.
Really.
I'm just kidding. I'm just didn't really give you a choice. That's like pre-show talk.
I hope you don't mind. Here we go.
Here we go. But you know, for you, like, so you talk about those valleys, and people don't know is that it might not just happen in the beginning or a few years in. It might happen deep into your career, where you're at this crossroads, and it's like, where do I go next? Do I want to even continue doing this? And from that space you were in, you know, almost about to leave the game completely.
Yeah, I was gonna move back to Baltimore, and like
right.
I was like, I'm gonna have a regular life, and my friends are like, Liris, you can't have a regular life.
That ain't you, right? That ain't you.
I'm like, yes, I can. What are you talking about?
So can you speak about how God, how the moment, how being able to be on Project Runway, how those things kind of shifted where you were just months before that took off?
Well, it was that January, February, March kind of that year, of 2017. Yeah. When it happened, and I was just, I mean, let me share this. The average model's career is 5 years. 5 years. I've been modeling for over a decade. I started straight out of high school, and I've been in it, but modeling is like my first love. It's like my first boyfriend. You know, you always remember it, and you get the special tie. So I was just like, have I done all there is to do? And I was just going to castings.
And can you just blurt like a few things off your resume so people understand like what
I've
the
done,
level you're talking about?
Yeah, I've done campaigns for Bryant, Ashley Stewart. I've walked in New York Fashion Week fashion shows. I've had my own video game character in Def Jam Icon. I was the first Black plus size
so
model.
Random.
Yeah. Yeah.
So dope.
Yeah.
So dope. So
yeah.
dope.
Yeah. First Black plus model to even walk in a designer finale on Project Runway. That was on season 14. I mean,
I didn't mean to take you off track, but that you guys understand.
A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. So I was just like, is it time for me to give up? Because it just seemed like I was going to castings and nothing was booking or no one was calling. And I was just like, maybe it's just over. Maybe it's time for me to move forward. And literally, I realized I was tired, but I was also, I had lost my confidence in a certain, like I was still confident, but I didn't have the Liris je ne sais quoi that I usually had. And a lot of that has to do with our mind and how we look at ourselves and a lot of stuff like, okay, is it age? Is it my race? Is it this? And that's when I had to start to learn to speak about what I want and not what I don't want. So a lot of things are obvious. We do go through race and, and different things, but let me focus on what I want. And I had to shift my energy. I had to shift my thinking. I had to shift my mindset. I did a post about this on my Instagram recently about money. We talk about, oh yeah, I spent this money. No, I circulated this money. Because a lot of times when we think about spending money, it means it's gone, it's not coming back. Right. Or I would penny pinch stuff. And that is like creating an expectation that I'm not going to make more money. So like my mindset has totally changed. And it's like, no, money chases me down. Jobs find me all the time. And it's like I had to speak it and really start to believe it. Right. Yeah. So it was different shifts that I had to go through mentally. And this is the thing, who wants to let people know, like, my life is horrible right now? And especially since so many people look to me as a source of inspiration. So I didn't really let people know, like, on social media I was going through. But after I got through it, then I was able to vocalize and put a voice to it and tell people, like, no, truly, like, your girl was putting together quarters out the piggy bank, trying to go get a sandwich from the bodega. Like it was literally like that. Now I'm in a totally different space, you know, thank God. But yeah, I was ready to give up, but spiritually I had to seek God on another level. And I say I got my Godfidence, like God poured into me and boosted me and sent people around me who love me and support me, and they bigged me up. And once I started to change my mind, different doors started to open up. Situations that seemed like they weren't going to come together, they started to come together. And I know it was God, because I was ready to give up. But I'm thankful for that, because it taught me how resilient I am, how strong I am, even in the midst of a storm. And it also taught me how powerful our minds are. Like, think about it. How many times have you thought about somebody like, dang, I haven't spoken to Renee in a year or so, and the next thing you know, Renee sends you an email or calls your phone.
Often this happens. You know, things like that happen often.
Yeah, but it just shows you how powerful our minds are.
Attracting,
yeah.
But like we were just talking. I mean, I'm not put the person's name out there, but we were just talking about the political campaign thing, the event, and the person that was running the PR. And the second we spoke about that, it was like she was doing a live video, and IG for me. Like, I didn't even mention that, but it happened simultaneously. So it's crazy.
That's why we have to be so careful of not only what we speak, but what we think. Because I can think something and someone can reach out to me, because that's how strong our minds are. So imagine once we think something and then we put words to it. So it's like we have to be so careful, and I'm glad I'm even more careful now. Not always perfect. Sometimes I have to pull myself back together.
Right.
But I think if more people realize that we cast spells with our mouths and with our minds every day, how much further we could be if we weren't our own worst enemy. A lot of times we're our own worst enemy. The door wants to open for us. Certain things want to happen for us, but we don't believe it in ourselves, or we speak, oh, they would never pick somebody like me. No.
You won't if you think that way.
Exactly.
You'll be
exactly. Exactly. I remember something simple. I had a girlfriend of mine who always said, oh, guys are dogs and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, you got to change that. I said, you got to change that. And once she started to say, you know what? No, there are some awesome men out there. Da-da-da-da-da. Guess what? Now she's married with 2 kids.
Well, there you go.
Okay? And they met quick, you know? So it just goes to show you, you know, how we attract what we think, believe, and speak.
No, you're absolutely right.
I mean, a lot of our dogs, but we're also awesome too. So
yes,
I'm happy that you put that out there.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. All I need is one. So
facts.
You know, all I need is one. Even if there are dogs out there, you know, all you need is one. So I'm not going to believe that they are absolutely all that way.
Right. But no matter how they are, I'm glad you found your Godfidence. You're wearing it very well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love it.
You're big on you go home a lot, Baltimore, and it's for someone that travels as much as you do. It's always surprising to me, and I appreciate it seeing when you post and you're in Maryland, that kind of stuff. Randallstown, Maryland.
Yes,
I'm very familiar. Did a lot of camps and basketball and all kinds of stuff out there. Why are you so big on making the time to spend at home to reconnect with family? Like, how does that center you, if it does?
It does center me. One, I love my family. Some people can't say that.
I can't, thank God. But I hear you.
I genuinely love my mom, my dad, my sister, my nieces, my brother-in-law, my cousins that are there. And thankfully, Baltimore is, you know, a hop, skip, and a jump from New York. So it gives me a second to, like, get away from the hustle and bustle. slow down a little bit, because New York is such a fast city.
Right.
And that's why I tell people, if you got to just go down there, go to Philly, go to Delaware, go somewhere, go to Boston for the weekend, something. Just so you can kind of just get out of the pace. Because literally when I'm on a plane, I can feel the energy. Like, as soon as I get off the plane, I'm like, gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta, you know. And then when I get to Baltimore, it's like, I can hear the birds chirping. I can smell the honeysuckle.
You know what's funny though? You just indirectly came at mad cities right there. Like, you know, you gotta stop. You gotta go to Philly or Delaware or Boston. Like, people in those cities think of them as fast. It's funny, but you know, you're
it's
right.
not. No, they aren't fast. Yeah. They aren't fast. Not compared to New York. Sorry.
I called Philly the South to one of our previous guests, and he was like, "Did you just call Philly the South to me from New York?"
Well, they used to say, especially when I first moved to New York, they're like, you have a Southern accent.
I still get that a little bit.
No, I don't. But it's actually the most southern northern state. Right, that's what I say. So now I get it, because now I've been living in New York so long. Like, I can hear the accent and how it sounds, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Before I was like, no, what are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah. But no, that's why. I mean, and Baltimore has great people, great food. Every part of Baltimore is not like the Wire. Sorry to disappoint you. It has its issues, no doubt, but it has some of the best people I know. My mom, my dad, my family, and they definitely stabilize me.
Dope.
Love it. So community and people seem to be very important to you. O was telling me earlier about how you want to bring the runway nationally with boot camps and helping, you know, other plus size women in their lives and in their careers. Can you talk to us about that and what your goal is for that?
I have a company called Life of a Working Model Boot Camp. We've been around for 4 years. Actually, that's a funny story too, because that was a company that I started, was afraid to start because I thought no one would show up. But I was kind of under the gun after a company I worked for that I was like their main model. They had filed for bankruptcy and they were like holding, you know, it was like all these thousands and thousands of dollars that I was expecting to get that I wasn't getting. So I was like, here we go, pulling out
one of them valleys.
Exactly, you know, one of those valleys. But that's how I had to, you know, make lemonade out of the lemons. And what am I good at? Okay, I'm good at modeling. So I started my model boot camp called Life of a Working Model Boot Camp, and it's been amazing because I started it to basically give quality information to women of all sizes, shapes, heights who wanted to get into modeling. I love it. I didn't want them to be bamboozled. I didn't want them to, you know, go to some of these other modeling schools, I'm not going to name names, that, you know, don't have anyone who's actually modeled. Right. They're kind of taking a pamphlet and just giving you the information. And I remember I booked this tiny room. It was probably about the size of this.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And I was like, oh, if I can get 7 girls to come, you know, I'm doing it. I had 42.
Well, you look at God.
Yeah. And I mean, women were flying in from across the country. And I was like, oh, snap.
I'm on to something.
Okay, I'm on to something. And so I offered 2 classes. One is the master class, and the other one is called Perfection in Posing. And the master class is kind of like the how-to of modeling. And it comes with like a panel and also like a mini runway class, and then the perfection in posing is where you build on from, where you get like a mini photo shoot in front of the camera, and you get a runway class to kind of help you to perfect your posing for the runway or in front of the camera. And it's been great. A lot of girls are asking me right now, when am I going to bring it back? But I've just really been busy with regular modeling work, and it takes a lot more energy than people realize to produce those camps. And a lot of times, I mean, most of the time I did it with no sponsorships. Right. So it was a lot to take on. I think now, of course, I'm in a different place.
Right.
even more visible within the marketplace, so I could have brands who could help me to, do it on the level that, because that's my thing. If I can't return and do the next boot camp at the same level or better than what I did before, then I don't want to do it. But it'll be back really soon. But speaking of that, it almost felt like it turned into a life class for models.
Sure.
So, because I started to have women who came who, they're like, look, I don't really want to be a model. I just want to learn model tips. So I was like, okay. My youngest was 12. The oldest, I think, is 52 that came. So pretty awesome. So then I ended up that same year, 2017, getting invited to come on the Steve Harvey show. And they wanted me. I was already thinking of creating like a special boot camp for the everyday woman. So I did, and it's called Make the World Your Runway. And that's for like youth groups and women's groups, organizations, so I can come and help them to build confidence and poise and all that good stuff, which is now also turning into, it has turned into my first book, which is called Make the World Your Runway, which is available at my website, lirisc.com, lirisc.com, or you can get it on Amazon. And it's basically where I take principles for how I prepare for the runway and how you can use them in your everyday life. Like your poise is not just about the poise you show on the runway, but what is your poise when your back is against the wall in your everyday life, when you are under the gun, you have a deadline at work, when you are going through certain stuff in your family and you still have to be poised and give this report at your job. Let's see. There's just so many things. Your poise, your presence, prayer. It's really important. I always pray before I go out on the runway. Even when I was on Project Runway and we were doing it in studio, I prayed, like, God, just let my light shine and use me. And he literally did.
He listens, yeah.
But, how is prayer important to me to prepare for the runway, and how it can be something that you use every day to help you to prepare for the runway of life, because we go out into the world and we color the world with how we show up,
right.
And that's pretty much, it's like a awesome book about presence and poise and being prepared and just all these physical and metaphysical ways that you can make the world your runway. So you definitely want to get it.
Yes, I love it.
You talking just made me think of something. I don't know if I have a question. Maybe it will turn into one. But you're an active model right now. That's a profession. That's a profession that you do. I think one thing people struggle with sometimes in any particular industry is at what level can they start showing what they've done to get there. So what I mean by that is your world is other models as well. Like that's your peer set. It's who you engage with. But also you've created a lot of engagement online and in person with folks that want to learn how to be a model, right? I guess I'm trying to figure out what is that balance like in the thought, like, have you ever gotten judged by other people in your industry by the fact that you're trying to show other people how to do it? Like, do they look at you and say, like,
no, actually, okay. Because I think I've waited for quite some time to do it, where there's other people, it's like, you've only been modeling for 3 years. What are you talking about?
Right. And so
you haven't even booked a national campaign.
Yeah. So what's that sweet point? Like when
yeah, I think it's once you've booked some major gigs, or even if it's like you're doing something locally, like there's different stuff you can teach. Somebody locally can teach you about runway, but they are not going to be able to teach you necessarily about shooting their first campaign for Bryant in the desert of Morocco, and you flew cross country and only got 3 hours of sleep, and you know what I mean?
Right.
It's a totally different thing. But that's why I tell people you need to research the people who are saying that they want to teach you. What have they achieved? Where are they going? What can they say that they have accomplished and done? Because in this day and age, it just seems like everybody wants to call themselves an expert,
right?
But that goes back to us. I can't fuel you and call you an expert unless I've really checked up on you. Right. And I think a lot of times research is getting lost.
Right.
People don't want to take 5 seconds to Google and say, what is this person's credits? Right. Oh, okay, she's only done this one Chitlin Circuit fashion show.
Circuit fashion.
I'm just saying.
Larry's pouring out all this indirect shade, but it's real.
No, but you know, I for me, I like to, depending on what it is,
right?
You know, because my thing is you can learn a lot of stuff from anybody, but for certain things, I want to learn from the best,
right.
And if I'm going to actually spend money on it, I definitely want to learn from someone who has different perspectives. So just do your research.
Good, yeah. And across all industries, everybody who's listening.
Yes.
Like whether
not
it's
just
finance, modeling, life coaching, like your sister, like check and make sure they have experience. They have previous people that they've helped, like
receipts.
Right? Yeah, Jing.
Yes, where are your receipts?
Right. Like don't just listen, because like you said, people can learn, but it's like, okay, what have you done with this knowledge that you've learned? Like you can't just learn to teach, like experience to teach instead.
Yeah, I'm like, how is this person charging the same amount that I charge for my class? And I'm like, it's either I need to raise my price or you know, yeah, which I'm open to that as well.
Exactly.
So,
the price went up.
But it's true. We need to research. Most people don't even want to. We'll see a headline in a tweet or in somebody's blog and just accept it as fact on Facebook. I mean, that's how we've seen all this fake news on Facebook, and I'm like, yo, that's a spoof site. That's a spam site. Like, did you check that URL? Did you?
Or it's from like 2014. And you're like, yo, that
person
will
died.
Share it now as if it just happened.
Yeah, it's like. Yeah. What? She died 7 years ago.
Right,
what are you doing?
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. But we need to get back to research. Yeah. Just a little bit. It doesn't take that long.
Ain't that hard?
That's like, it's funny on Facebook. I even, like, if somebody says, did this really happen, Liris? I'm like, excuse me, I'm appalled. Do not ever come on my page. I'm one of the few people who I'm not going to share or repost something unless I can show fact.
Right.
You know, like, don't do that to me. Don't play me. Yeah.
Online, we're talking about it. If you click on any one of your pictures or videos, it's women from all over the world, like engaging with you, right? What is it, how important is it for you to cultivate that community? And what is I think the thing you hope people leave with whenever they come to your page?
Well, one of the things that I truly try to do is respond to people or at least like their comment. Because I kind of think of how I feel like if Naomi Campbell liked one of my posts or commented back at me. So I try to treat people how I would want to be treated. So, and my thing is there's power in community.
Right.
So it's much better than me just posting my picture and then, just like and comment and I'm just
show me love.
Yeah, right. It's not just about me. It's about so much more. And that's why I try to engage people. I've become great friends with people that I have met just on my social media.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, you never know who's watching you. You never know who can come through in a pinch or connect you with these other people. You don't know how you can do business with certain people, but you're not going to know that if you don't start to engage. Right. And I think that's really important. Engage and treat people how you want to be treated. Because if you do it like that, then people feel like they're a part of your journey. And I think that that's where a lot of people miss on social media on social media, yeah, you can have 1 million followers, but if you have 1 million followers but you never engage them, that's why you can come out with an album and you only sell 1,000 copies and you have 1 million followers.
Right.
Where if you really engage them, like Cardi B. Cardi B engages her followers. Yeah. She responds, she talks, even like Nicki Minaj, she responds, she'll that's so important. People want to feel like they're important too.
They're seen.
They're seen. Yeah. A lot of people just want you to acknowledge them.
Right.
That's why I'll ask, okay, well, what is your name? I have people run up to me on the street from Project Runway. I always ask, well, what is your name? Who's your favorite on the show? I'll give them a hug. I just want them to feel as though I met her and I could feel her.
Yeah, just genuine.
Yeah. Feel my heart.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, that's dope stuff.
I wanted to know, like, because as you were talking about, like, your community, really, like, I like to call my, like, social media fam, like, my community. Like, I don't call you my fans. I don't call you, like...
I call it my Liris loves or supporters. That's what I say.
Love it. Yes. Yeah. So, like, for those people who are, like, looking to you, like you said, for, like, inspiration and, just to kind of get an idea of, like, what you've been doing, like, what does it mean for you, like, to continue to dream big and continue to, like, transform yourself and your life into being your best self to continue to move forward?
I think to me, it just means that I'm living my purpose. I think purpose is really important. I think when you lose your purpose or you don't have something planted in some type of purpose, that's why some people, die, leave, commit suicide, all types of stuff. You fall off that wagon. Think about it. It's certain people some people when they retire from their job they thought was their only purpose. Right. And then after they retire, they die. Or they have their spouse passed away, and the next thing you know, they're gone too. You have to plant yourself and have other purposes. It's not just your job. It's not just, like even with kids, a mother can be like, this is my purpose to raise these kids. Okay, what are you going to do when they go off to college? And they're gone. And they start their own lives and they're not coming back. Then you feel worthless. Then you feel, if you haven't put your hands in the soil to have other purposes, other ways to live your life, other stuff to build on the talents and beautiful things that God has instilled in you. So, yeah, to me, it's just, I know it may sound corny to whoever's listening, but I just think your purpose is so important. Finding my way through life. Sometimes slow, sometimes quicker, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But finding my way, finding how do I make this world better? How do I leave a lasting impact? How do I effect change for the next generation? I want to be able to, that's why I said I want to leave here empty. I want, whether it's, the old lady that I help carry her groceries down the street because I see, she's, not really able to move that quick, right, to the girl who's lost confidence in herself and I'm able to speak life into her, to the client that I work for who said, you helped me to sell the most product this week ever. All of those things are really important, and it's fulfilling purpose. Yeah, I love it. Thanks.
Book is out now. Yes. Just amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Who is the ideal person to read it? Like who do you feel like would respond the most to it?
I think the person that will respond the most is women who are around, I would say probably 18 to 35, 40, who are just, because I think in that age range, there's a lot that you go through when you're around that college time. You're finding out who you are, what you like. You're out of your parents' house. And sometimes you go through situations during that time that can really affect your confidence or how you see the world, or you just trying to find out who you are. And I think that this book can help with that. I also think it's great for the woman who's already graduated. She's in the workforce, but maybe she's gone through different things in her dating life and she's not happy. She's not the same. Maybe she's not the same size she was in high school. That's another thing that we as women need to leave behind, that whole thing. But, she's trying to, because I feel like we go through reinventions like every 7 years. So I think it's for women who are, well, the book is for everybody, but I would say the person that would probably hit the most are women who are just looking for that extra way to boost their confidence, find their way, find their purpose, and be their best, Liris, Renee, Sheila, Keisha, whoever she is. Because I'm big on that. Like, I need to be the best Liris I can be. And this book definitely helps with that. Make the world your runway.
Dope. Definitely get that.
Get on it.
Lirisc.com.
Yes.
And I have it's a piggyback off of that, but it's actually not related. But I'm a piggyback just because I'm stealing two questions real quick.
It's okay. It's fine.
All right. So my question is, I think in industries when there's like unicorns that get created, right? So you mentioned you're a pioneer in the model, or I mentioned that you're a pioneer in the modeling industry. That comes with like your perception of the space. It has to be, I think, wide lens to understand that. So in the entrepreneurial world I live in, right, as a Black entrepreneur, Black founder, you realize on the women's side and on the men's side, there's a couple or a few people that get tapped to speak at everything, to be on everything, to be the face of, right? In your industry, like Ashley Graham, you hear her name all the time, right? There's other amazing models out there that need that should be getting that shine, that opportunity. For you, what is it? How do you move through that? Have you seen spaces where you feel like the door has been closed because to make room for someone who's already kind of done this before?
Yes.
Do you like how do you deal with that?
That's probably one of the hardest parts. It's probably one of the hardest parts. It's like, how do I keep going when it feels like, they keep giving it to certain people.
And no shade to Ashley Graham.
No, it's no shade to her at all. And we appreciate the doors that she's been able to open for plus size women across the world. But there is more of us, and she isn't the only one. And that's why a lot of times you have to create your own buzz. You have to create your own projects. And like earlier this year, I did the Model Diversity Project, and thankfully we were able to release it through Mic.com. And that was to shine a light on model diversity. That installation of it was more about race, because a lot of times it's like only one look of, African American, or a lot of times we aren't called for the same jobs. So let me show you the beauty of us and as plus size women. And, so I showed a variety of, from Black to Russian to Spanish, a little bit of everything, Canadian. So it was great to just show the beauty of women, period. But a lot of times you have to be your own best PR.
Yeah.
Like, thankfully, we are in a day and age where we have social media. Utilize that. Use hashtags, tag companies that you want to work with. Create your own buzz. Reach out to different journalists and people who have websites and say, hey, let's do a story together. Let's collaborate. Let's make this happen. Also, you have to just stay steadfast. Stay steadfast. Know that you belong. And eventually the right people will take notice. Or if they sleep on you, kind of like something I posted on Instagram, it's like, okay, they sleeping on you, we'll fluff the pillow. And it's like, you know what? Y'all keep that energy, because whatever is really for me is going to find me regardless. And unfortunately, some things take longer than we want. Right. But once we stay steadfast, I mean, look, I stayed steadfast and I didn't give up. And the Steve Harvey show found me. Project Runway found me. Now different schools and women's groups are reaching out to me to speak for them. And it's just everything is like a building block, just one after the other after the other. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Nah. It's hard. It's hard, because a lot of times you want to look at somebody and say, what about me though? But I just have to continue to put out the best images and product and do the best speeches, and the right people will find me when the time is right.
And that's dope, because there's a quote, I'm gonna misquote it, but the general point of it is, it's like I asked God for strength, and instead of giving me big muscles, He gave me experiences to get through to give me that strength, right? And so like your story, I mean, there was a point where you're pushed to the brink. Do I even want to do this anymore? You can blame many different things, but then it's like the only way you know if you're cut out for it in reality is if you do get pushed to that moment. That moment where it's like, yo, like, because I know even through our journey, I've had those moments where it's like, how do you continue? You're almost in your mind like, how do I even continue? I feel like I've done it all. And God's kind of laughing like, oh, you think you've done it all. Right? You know what I'm saying? And then when you make that decision inside of yourself, like, look, no matter how difficult this is for me. Like, this is what I've chosen to do. This is what I'm cut out for. I'm going to keep doing it. And it's like when you make that conscious decision, all of a sudden everything starts flooding in.
Not only that, when you really love what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
It makes a difference. I genuinely love what I do. So a lot of times when you love what you do, you will go through hell and high water for what you're going through. So it's like, I'd rather do this broke if I had to, because it's what I really love to do. And a lot of times people are in jobs that they really don't love. And you're like, dang, that person is always angry whenever I go into that restaurant. What's wrong with it? They're operating outside of their purpose.
Right. Absolutely.
And they need to go find something that fulfills their purpose and makes them feel good. And,
But oftentimes they're so afraid. That fear is like...
Yeah, but guess what? Your freedom is on the other side of that fear.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
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 I'm glad that I took the plunge and was like, look, I know y'all want me to go to college, but I want to move to New York and pursue modeling. Can I try that? That was a big plunge, especially being a preacher's kid. But I'm thankful that I did, and I'm thankful that I didn't give up. I'm telling you, it's like... so many things will align itself when you're really where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Find what your calling is, your purpose, step outside that comfort zone, and be saying amen, thank you God all the time. Like so many great things happen, or people come into your life, but I think like we're lucky.
We're blessed.
We're blessed. Blessed in the fact that not just in who we are and what we're doing now, but we also have support from people. Like you said, like I told my parents, like, I don't want to go to college. I want to, you said you want to go pursue modeling. I've had jobs where I'm like, you know what? I'm at a place where I'm not happy. I feel myself doing something more. So I'm going to do that. You started your own company. Like that support of people also is like really helpful. And I find that a lot of people don't feel like they have that support. So aside from fear, like it's that as well that like holds people back. What advice would you have for someone who does feel like they just don't have that support within their family?
Okay, they don't have family support. Well, I always say this too. You should still have friends who are like family. I have certain friends who are closer to me than any of my family members. So just find people that you connect with. Find people that you like. Just because they're family, just because they're not your blood relative doesn't make them not family. It may not make it in the natural, but it can make it in the supernatural. And I think that that's one of the things that helps us stay mentally healthy and pushes us to greatness when we surround ourselves in business, in friendships, and in family by people who have positive outlooks, people who support us and think we're awesome. So find that. They're out there. Trust me. There's somebody out there for everybody. Trust me. Trust me.
And the reality is, and you have to invest in those relationships and cultivate them, right? Like you have to have. There got to be a set of people who they could call you at any time in the day, and you pick up for them, right? Like if you have that, you have the support system,
and you don't need a bunch.
Right.
No,
right?
No.
That's facts. That's facts.
It's not high school. You had like 30-something friends like trying to hang out with them. Like, no.
You don't need a bunch. You just need a couple solid people around you that you can call. I have a couple friends who, both of their, like I have a cousin and I have another good friend. His mother and father are both gone. And I've basically been like, look, if you ever are going through anything and it's Thanksgiving, I don't want you to ever feel like you need to be home by yourself, or because he's not really cool with certain family members. Like, my mom loves you, so you can come on down to Baltimore. Right. If you see that someone needs that help or that love or that connection, be one of those people to offer it. You never know when you're going to need it back yourself. And we can build our own communities. Yes. And they're called awesome friendships.
Yes.
I think that's a beautiful, certainly. I think it's a beautiful way to kind of wrap it there with that piece of advice. Where can people find you online, Liris?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat at Liris C, Lirisc. You can also find me on Facebook under Liris Crosse. I have 2 pages. Liris, excuse me, last name Crosse, Crosse, Crosse with an E, Iris with an L. And I'm trying to think. On YouTube, you can find me at youtube.com/LC78. And I think that's it, right?
That's love.
She mentioned her website where you can.
Yes, and always go to my website, lirisc.com, for updates on my blog.
Name drop the book real quick again.
Yes, my book is called Make the World Your Runway, so you can order the book there for a signed copy. And you can also shop any of the other Life of a Working Model merchandise products that we have.
Awesome. All day. Well, guys, on behalf of the WYL Take Ownership podcast hosts, myself.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
And my podcast.
And your podcast.
Yes, check out my podcast. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you're definitely going to check out mine too. And it's Liris Lounge. You can find it on the Cewebity app, which is CEWEBITY. Check them out, but also check out the hashtag Liris Lounge, and you'll be able to connect or get a link to it.
Dope.
Thank you, Liris.
You heard it here first. Well, guys, again, thank you for joining us again for the WYL Take Ownership podcast, where we're all about taking ownership of your mental, your economics, and your community. Liris here is doing that, certainly, and so we want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good one, y'all.
Later, guys.